is Chain, and welcome to another Is It Worth the Gold video. Today we are looking at the STA-2 Tier 8 Japanese Medium Premium. That rhymes for some reason. But before I forget, like I did with the CDC, big thanks to Devil in Grey from my Twitch channel for gifting me this thing, gifting me the CDC, and also 10k gold so I can put pretty camo on these things. Thanks a lot, man, you're awesome. That being said, is this thing worth the gold? First of all, it costs 7,400 gold, so it is in the same price range as the Super Pershing, as the CDC, and as the Panther 88. And in my opinion, if this is not the worst one of them, then it's definitely the second worst after the Super Pershing. It has a lot of qualities, a lot of bad qualities that it shares with the Super Pershing, and it has one real big disadvantage: it does not have premium matchmaking. Well, preferential matchmaking, that is. Can't really say premium matchmaking anymore because more than half of the premiums now don't even have it. Let's look into the armor. So, first of all, no armor. I mean, it has more armor than the CDC, so HE is not gonna pen you all the time, but even some HE can pen this with no real problem. Turret armor is slightly better, but even then it's mostly flat or rounded, and the angles are not really going to be all that great, so I wouldn't expect to bounce much of this turret. The gun mantlet is big, but it's not very good. 175 pen, and you shouldn't have no issues depending this gun mantlet almost regardless of what angle you shoot it at. There's like a tiny chance, but it's really tiny. The only place this tank has some armor is the tracks, which have to be shot in a weird angle to work, and that is pretty much it. When we come to the stats, we're comparing it to the Panther 88 because that's the closest one I really can think of. It is slightly faster than Panther, so these stats are bound to be a bit worse, but turn resistance way worse than on the Panther. That's the most redeeming feature about the Panther 88. Power to weight is though better, so the speed of this thing and the Panther 88 is actually really similar. But the good news about this is that it has 10-degree gun depression. That is way better than the 5 to the front on the Panther. 10 everywhere apart from the back is only 3, which is pretty damn bad. 13 elevation is not great either. That being said, I'm pretty sure we're ready to go to the replay. Here's the game, playing with Jedi, who's playing the Baguette. Top tier matchmaking, pretty lucky for us. But before all the action starts, let's look into some of the stats. So, 420 hit points, reasonable, not great compared to like a Panther 88, but it's reasonable enough. Speed limit 45 kilometers an hour. As you can see, the tank struggles to climb hills and it struggles to drive anywhere. You can see what the difference is between this and the CDC, and the armor difference is almost not there. So, speed limit backwards 20 kilometers an hour, that's good, always helpful. Engine power 500 horsepower, horsepower per ton though is better than on the Panther 88. But as we can see, the substats fucked it over. When it comes to the gun is mixed bag of emotions. 240 alpha, 185 penetration, which is really bad for a tank premium tank that sees tier 10. It's probably the worst penetration of all of them that actually see tier 10s, which makes this a really bad package in my opinion. Because like if CDC can get away in tier 10 games just because it's fast, it can go around the tanks way quicker. This thing cannot. And you get a good heat pen, 275, but it's heat, so most of the time when you want to be flanking, you can't really spam that heat into the tracks of tier 10s. It might just not work out for you. Plus, 90 mil heat is just ridiculously expensive, so I wouldn't really recommend shooting that all that much. DPM on this is the best of all the new tanks, well, from this or the Baguette. This has better DPM, that's sure, but the accuracy is 0.37 and the aiming time is 2.2, which is not, accuracy is not that great, aiming time is pretty damn good. Elevation is bad, as I said before, and that's pretty much all there is to say about the stats. So here, raping the VK, I mean, this tank is reasonable enough, and if you wonder why did I switch my attention there, it's because I'm on the mission to kill 3 TDs when I was playing this game, so if you see me kill securing, that's because of that reason alone. And if there is some redeeming features of this tank, it is good at bullying lower tiers just because of that great gun depression, and the low penetration doesn't really matter if and your DPM is better than on, for instance, the CDC or pretty much any other tier 8 premium tank. But the lack of penetration is a really big issue when it comes to you being bottom tier. The gun is not greatly accurate either, so sniping weak spots with this, even though possible at close range, at medium and long ranges, this gun is start to struggle. And to be completely fair, when you're top tier 185 penetration is pretty much enough for anything you're gonna meet. At tier 9, obviously E75 is gonna be a complete waste of your time, and shooting tanks like the STA-2 is a bit problematic as well. So the problem I have with this tank is that it doesn't make a lot of sense. The build of this tank doesn't make a lot of sense because it is big, it is slow, and it has no armor. And the gun is not as good. It's pretty damn far from being as good as on this baguette. So this tank is no place in my opinion. I mean, it is too slow to not have any armor, and the gun has no penetration, so you can't really snipe with it. So what do you even do with this thing? I mean, the obvious role is the hull down bully. Like, bullying low tier tanks when you're hull down is probably the easiest thing you can ever do, but the problem with that is that not every game you can actually do that. The accuracy on the move for this gun is really good, but then again, you can't really scoot around with a tank of this size, and with absolutely no armor you're just gonna get all your modules wrecked instantly. So the equipment that I've put on this is rammer, grid stabs, and coated optics. Note that coated optics are not gonna work fully if you don't have a badass crew, because 380 view range is not really what you want for your tier 8 medium, which is also a big downside. Why does this tank not have 390 or 400? Weird. But overall, this is pretty much like the AMX CDC with pretty much no redeeming features. It is... The only good thing about it is the slightly higher DPM, but that is not enough to compensate for the lack of speed, lack of penetration, lack of accuracy. It's just not good enough. It might seem funny to say that when I'm racking up kills left and right here, but I am playing a top tier game where my enemies are not the most advanced players ever, so not like I'm super playing like an god here. It's just that I don't really have any real enemies, and here, like, I could have made this game so much better than it would have been if I just played aggressive from this point on. I was a bit worried about where the 112 has gone, and if he's come back then I might have been in trouble, but since he's spotted now, I can go down and play a bit more aggressive. To really sum this thing up, it just has no redeeming features. I mean, it's big, it's slow, it has a bad gun, it has enough armor to bounce HE and your occasional lower players every once in a million years, but other than that, this is just... It doesn't really have any place in this game. I mean, after they put in the CDC, this is just worse than that, in every way. It's kind of weird. My theory on that is, put your tinfoil hats on, that just because there's an STA-1 in game, they couldn't make this thing better than the STA-1 just because that would resemble pay to win in some way, and here's was a mistake to turn around. But since there's no actual French non-auto-loading medium at tier 8 that they can compare it with, they could feel free to make it as good as they wanted to, while this thing was capped by the potential on the STA-1. The problem with that, if this thing had preferential matchmaking, it would be pretty good. It would be alright. For that price, I would actually say it's one of the better ones, but since it doesn't have preferential, it makes absolutely no sense to me. Why would you get this over any of the other premiums that they released lately? So the only reason I could see anyone buying this is because they like Japanese mediums and they really want the crew trainer. But if you think about it, if you want this as your only tier 8 premium, I wouldn't recommend it even if you are only grinding Japanese tanks, just because if you want your only tier 8 premium, it better be good and fun to play, and this isn't really none of them. I mean, it can be alright as you can see in top tier games, but it's fucking trash when you're bottom tier. Enough talking about that, here's the end play. 2113 experience earned, Top Gun, Ace Tanker, obviously. 3261 damage done, 784 damage. Filthy kill securing this game, 7 kills is just ridiculous. As I said, I was trying to get those first TDs just because of the mission, and after that just people on low health were in front of my gun all the time. 87,000k profit after repairs and refill of the ammunition isn't all that great, but then again I only did 3.2k damage, so it's not like I really deserved more. to sum it up, the STA-2 is just not as good as the other premium tanks at its price range. The two redeeming features, the gun depression and the good DPM, is not really enough. And if you decide to go for full heat to compensate for the bad penetration, you will end up in a problem that this tank will not make any credits because the 90mm heat shells are way too expensive and they don't do enough damage. So, nah, this tank is just not good enough. I hope you guys enjoyed the review and I will see you on the next one.